You're keto. You want to stock a prepper pantry just in case that you know what hits the fan. You go online looking for options and you see things like oatmeal and rice and beans and flour and sugar. Those are the things we don't eat anymore. So what do? Behind me is my keto prepper pantry. We're going to go through it today. I'm going to tell you all the things that I can make that we're used to eating that can keep us strong and healthy through whatever may come. Welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter and I'm thrilled you're here with me today. Let's get started. Since 2015, I have been either paleo, keto, or somewhere in between. Today we're talking about my fully stocked keto pantry. Next week, we'll talk about my fully stocked paleo pantry. So if you're not keto, but you're paleo, or you're cutting down on grains, you want to lower your carbs just a little bit, come back next week and we'll see what a paleo pantry looks like. Let's talk about our protein options first. These are all shelf stable. You'll notice a lot of mine are home canned. They don't have to be. There are commercial versions of all of these. Keystone is a company that makes a lot of commercially canned beef and ground beef and turkey and chicken and pork. So don't let that stop you. Let's talk about some of the things you may already have first. Salmon, always great. Tuna. I also have a little package of tuna. These I find are great for grab and go. My husband loves herring, so I keep herring. Your mileage may vary. You can also do sardines. You can do oysters. You can do anything. Just check your carbs, of course. This is my little guilty favorite pleasure here, corned beef. You may have some of this. I don't have any Spam, but I love corned beef. So let's move on to stew meat. So mine is home canned, but Keystone makes essentially the very same product, and it's really pretty good. So you can do all kinds of things with stew meat. Think about that. Other options on my table, I have turkey. Keystone also makes that. I have pork. Keystone again. I have ham. Lots of folks make canned ham, so that's easy to find. I have chicken breasts. Canned chicken is everywhere. You can find that. You can do so many things with these. I have ground beef. Again, Keystone makes that. I know it sounds a little strange, but it's delicious. I have a couple of prepared meals. I have chili. I have spaghetti sauce in my pantry. I also have pot roast. I have taco meat. You don't have to go the prepared meals route because with these main proteins here and what's on this back table, you can make any of these. Okay, let's move on to the flavor enhancers. So these are the things that you add to the plain meats and cans or jars that you have to turn them into meals that you're used to eating, that you would eat normally. Change up the flavor profile so you're not eating just the same bowl of plain chicken every day. That's not what we want to do either. So I'll run through with you some of the things that I like, that I keep. You may have different items that you use, and that's fine. Whatever you use to make meals that you like, that's what you should have on your pantry shelf. So I have the Primal Kitchen steak sauce. These are all keto. I have some tamari. I have hot sauces. I have homemade hot sauces. I have Primal Kitchen barbecue sauce. I have a homemade keto barbecue sauce. I have red curry paste. That's excellent if I want to make a chicken curry. It really shakes things up. These are chipotle peppers. I love that they're in glass jars. You know, most of them are in the little cans and they have questionable oils. This one is just fine. I have some homemade salsa, but again, that comes in jars. I always keep garlic and ginger on the shelf. Oops, ginger on the shelf. I also have my regular seasonings. This is taco seasoning. So if you just have the ground beef in a can from Keystone or whomever, mix it up with a taco seasoning, then you can make a taco bowl. I always have butt rub. Typically I would use it on, ribs or whatever that I don't keep in the pantry. But if you put this with the pulled pork that I have in the jars and cook it up, warm it up just a little bit, and then you can put some barbecue sauce on top and make a keto bread roll. Fabulous pork slider. Montreal steak seasoning is great. I love this stuff. I use it on everything. Really can spruce up a beef stew or a Brunswick stew, or, you know, pretty much anything. You know what this is. I have a lot of herbs, dried herbs from the garden. You can get them from Costco, you can get them from the grocery store, Sam's Club, wherever you go. And then finally, in the seasonings, I always have salt and pepper. Again, get them from wherever. I love this red Montreal salt, but if you like the pink Himalayan, or you like regular Morton's iodized salt, get whatever suits you. Continuing on with the flavor enhancers and meal makers, let's move on to our vinegars. I keep a wide variety. I like coconut vinegar, rice vinegar. This is unseasoned, so there are no carbs in that. This is a red wine vinegar. I also keep an organic white wine vinegar. You could do champagne vinegar. Doesn't have to be organic either. And of course, the old standby apple cider vinegar. The only one you're not going to see here in my keto pantry is balsamic vinegar because of the sugar content. Now, let's talk about broths. Do a packaged bone broth. You can do a homemade and home canned. This is a chicken broth. You can do this little stuff, the bouillon paste. You can do bouillon cubes. I found these little things at my farmer's market, which are great, just little packages of very condensed broth. I love those. Now let's talk about olives. Olives are good at so many things, and I'm not even an olive fan, but you can throw those in something just to kind of perk it up. I have diced tomatoes. These are home diced tomatoes, home crushed tomatoes. Get those in a can, obviously, not to worry about that. Also, I love the rotel. It's easy. The chilies and the tomatoes all in the same can. Tomato paste is always a must for me. Here are the little green chilies. So if I'm going to make a white chicken chili, I want those in there. Sometimes if I do a taco bowl or a beef burrito in a bowl, I'm going to want some green chilies in there. I always keep some dried mushrooms around. They basically last forever. I've got shiitake and porcini. This one you may think is odd. This is anchovies. I don't put it in my protein thing because I just don't eat these as protein. But I can make from pantry staple items, I can make a keto Caesar dressing with these. So I always keep this. So I know you're thinking Caesar dressing. Why would you need a Caesar dressing if you're eating out of your pantry? Well, I also grow lettuce indoors year round, which is something we'll talk about at another time. Tahini, you can make an excellent dressing and do some meat and some noodles. Fantastic. Of course, I have mustard. I have mayo. If you're a ketchup eater, you'll want to have ketchup. There are plenty of sugar-free ketchups out there. Pizza sauce. There are a couple of different varieties that aren't bad in carbs. This one is 3 grams of carb per quarter cup. Dill pickles. Now I made these from the garden, but you can buy them at the grocery store. Just again, check for sugar content. I also have some, these are dried cherry tomatoes. They're a little carby, but they add an excellent punch of flavor for just a few little things. So I always put them on like a keto pizza or salad. As I mentioned, I do that a lot. So you get a big bang for your buck for just a little bit. Hot cherry peppers. Can some myself. I also keep the commercially stocked variety. And bell pepper strips. These are delicious. These are too much trouble to can myself, but these are perfect. Okay, let's talk about oils. Very important at a keto pantry. Extra virgin olive oil. This is probably the one I use the most. I love it. This comes from Costco. Coconut oil, I use a lot. I use it a lot of cooking, a lot of baking. I buy the big tub from Costco and let it melt. I put it outside on the deck, it melts on the way home, and I pour it into jars that I can handle. I don't want to be sticking my hand and a knife way down in that big bin. So I put it in smaller jars. Now I don't do dairy, so this is a butter flavored coconut oil. If you do dairy, you can do ghee, that is totally shelf stable. I also have some sprays here, extra virgin olive oil. This is avocado oil. This is my avocado oil. I use this a lot for cooking as well. You can also get lard that is shelf stable. You can do duck fat that's shelf stable. So there are lots of options. You could even can your own butter that is shelf stable. It's a bit of a rebel canning. But anyway, this is what I have in my pantry. So you stock yours with the oils that you use. All right, let's talk about drinks that you should have in your prepper pantry. I hope it goes without saying that every prepper pantry, in fact, every pantry for that matter, should have water. Whether it is plain bottled water, sparkling bottled water, flavored bottled water, you ought to have water, and you ought to have plenty of water. That'll be the first thing that could take you out. So sometimes we want to change up that water. So I have tea, I have black tea, I have green tea, I have a wide assortment of herbal teas. That helps a lot. I also have coffee, lots and lots of coffee. So I have regular and I keep decaf. You can do instant coffee, anything you want. You could do the little pods if that's what you use. Collagen peptides, these I use if I'm gonna make like chocolate milk or a protein shake. It's really, really good. So you might look into that. A little bit of protein. It's not a complete protein, but it's delicious, changes things up. I keep electrolyte powders. These are both keto. They both have reasonably clean ingredients in them. I use this and gelatin and hot water and make a jello that I think is really a lot of fun. I enjoy it. This makes excellent hot chocolate. I mean, excellent comfort food right there. Let's talk about nuts and seeds. Now, many of these I do store in my freezer for long-term storage, but I always have enough in my pantry to last me probably 3 months, and I just rotate them out. I've never had anything go bad, but just do keep an eye on it. Starting with almonds. I use almonds all the time. You can make your own almond butter. I turn them into, I use them in granola. I use them in protein bars, same thing with walnuts. All of these are very low carb. Pecans, I love pecans. You can also have macadamia nuts. I don't have macadamia nuts in my house because I have a dog and they're harmful to dogs. So that would certainly be fine. Pumpkin seeds, these are great. Sunflower seeds, chia seeds. I make chia pudding quite often. I have organic parts. You can make like an oatmeal kind of thing. I have a couple of different peanut butters. I don't necessarily eat peanut butter, but this mixed nut butter from Costco is really, really good. And the almond butter I have here, as long as I'm talking about peanut butter options, I should also mention that I have canned this is just a berry jam. So it's raspberries and blackberries and strawberries. There's no sugar added. I did it with allulose, which we'll talk about in a minute. I keep this so I can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich sometimes. Okay, now we're getting into a section of the pantry that's gonna look very different from a traditional prepper pantry. These are keto rices and pastas. So one of my favorites is the kelp noodles. These are excellent with an Asian style dish. Make a tahini dressing and some meat. If you have any fresh vegetables in your garden, you can use those. This is a new thing. It is called Lulu pasta. My daughter found these online and they're really very good. They're extremely filling. It is from Wholesome Provisions, and the carb per serving, let's see, 2/3 cup uncooked. Total carbs is 23, but the fiber is 19. So a net of 4 carbs. So this is an orzo shape. It's delicious. Well, it's not pasta, but for a keto pasta, it's delicious. And then this is the penny version of it, made with the same ingredients. So it is lupin flour and sunflower flour. Same number of carbs in this one. Riced cauliflower. This I get at Costco. Comes in a box with a bunch of these. It's not my favorite, but it can be helped. Just put it in a pan with a little bit of oil and it becomes much more appetizing. This is the cognac noodles, the miracle noodles. This is spaghetti style. They come in rice, it comes in fettuccine, whatever. I think these are okay if I mix them with the sauce. I'm not a big fan of them alone, but rinse them, drain them, mix them with whatever sauce you're having, and it's a spaghetti noodle. This is palmini. This is a lasagna sheet. To me, it doesn't really taste like pasta. You're not going to fool anyone that it's pasta, but it gives you the great layering ability to make a pasta. So I think this is great to have on hand. We don't use it a lot, but I do keep it on hand. All right, we're going to move on to the next category. All right, let's get to the fun part. I'm just loosely going to call this my baking section. So we'll cover lots of different things in here. Start with the main flours. I always have almond flour on hand. I always keep the newest one in the freezer, but I have this on hand in the pantry. That's enough to last me a good long time. So I can make crackers out of this. I can make pizza dough. I can make bread. I can make rolls. I have flax meal. I can make a bread out of flax meal, salt, and water, and I think it's delicious. I can add that also to other recipes for bread. Then we have coconut flour. I can make biscuits out of these. It also goes in several of the bread recipes. It's also a good thickener if you can cook it a little bit, and it's great for making pitas. I have bone broth protein, which I use in some of my breads. It helps it all come together. I have coconut, which I use in my protein bars, and I use it in my granola. That's always a winner for me. Baking powder. You need baking powder if you're going to bake some bread. Cream of tartar is also a good one. This is monk fruit erythritol. I used to use this a lot, but it bothers me a little bit, so I don't really use it anymore, but it's very popular in the keto world. It's no net calories, so that's a good one. Cinnamon. I love cinnamon. Great for making cinnamon rolls. I always have that on hand. As I mentioned before, I am dairy-free, so the nutritional yeast is excellent in a pizza. It makes it taste like Parmesan cheese. So that I use for pizza, Italian bread, a couple of my other bread recipes use the nutritional yeast. Let's talk about this first. Beef gelatin. I use this to make Jell-O, basically, and it's fantastic. So I use those keto electrolytes to make Jell-O. Glucomannan. This is from the konjac plant, so it's the same thing that is used to make miracle noodles. I use this to thicken up sauces. So if I'm going to do like the turkey and gravy that I showed you that I home canned, I'll do this when I take it out of the jar and thicken up that gravy, and then I'll put it on top of some of the keto pasta or the cauliflower rice. It takes very little, but it's perfect for that. Let's talk about, I use coconut. You can use almond. You can use regular dairy milk, whatever it is, but you can get them in these pantry safe containers. So this is coconut cream. This is my favorite coconut milk. I bake with these. I can make pudding. I can make ice cream. This and chocolate and stevia. That's ice cream. You just don't know it. So that is an excellent thing to have. While I have this in my hand, cocoa, it helps me make a chocolate milkshake. It helps me make chocolate cookies. I can make brownies. Sweeteners, monk fruit, I always have on hand. The stevia I just showed you, I always have that on hand. I also keep both of them in a powdered form. Sometimes you need that instead. I keep vanilla and almond. Those are the two I primarily use. Pumpkin, canned pumpkin. I keep this on hand because there is a vegan keto pumpkin bread recipe that we love. So on its own, it's a little carby, but when it's just mixed into this bread recipe, it's fantastic and it's keto. Now, when I make the pancakes and waffles, I love these syrups. I particularly like this RX sugar one. I've just found this. It uses allulose, which is my new favorite sweetener. I'll talk about that in a minute. This is xoxo. It's okay. It doesn't have the cleanest ingredients, but I keep that around as well. Now, when I make cinnamon rolls, keto cinnamon rolls, I like, instead of the icing with the erythritol that a lot of folks use, I like to melt the coconut manna, coconut butter, and swirl that on top. Delicious. Worth keeping in your pantry just for that purpose. Let's talk about egg white protein. You can make bread out of this and water. Enough said, right? Worth keeping on hand. baking soda, I always have that on hand. Egg yolk powder, you can add that to the bread if you want it to be a little more textured like bread. It has a really nice texture to it. Chocolate, one of my favorites. These are all just chocolate, no sugar, no dairy. Chocolate is very high in fiber, so the net carbs is great on all of these. Let's talk about my favorite sweetener, allulose. I have recently discovered this. It has 0 net carbs. It has 0 net carbs. It's all allulose. It is originally from corn. It is processed quite a bit to get the allulose out of the fructose from the corn. But there are no corn proteins remaining. If you have any issue with grains, you may be able to do this. It does not cause me any kind of issues like the erythritol does. It doesn't have an aftertaste. It tastes just like sugar. I use it in canning. I use it in all my baking. It has been a fantastic find for me. It is not paleo, but it is definitely keto. So that's it for my Keto Prepper Pantry. Did I miss anything? Did I miss something you really enjoy? Please let me know down in the comments what you might add. I know that this is a lot of stuff. I love to cook. If you don't like to cook, pick out your favorites. Make sure you have your recipes in paper version, not online, just in case we happen to lose the internet. Heaven forbid we should lose the internet or cell service. You want to be able to access what you need to turn all of this into the wonderful treats that we have grown to know and love in keto. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again at Grow and Preserve. Thank you. Bye-bye.